okay. Ground is getting a little bit steeper here. You see the path coming along there. And Titzinger is just over the ridge on the other side there. And the far crag that you can see is the top of the crag that's above Titzinger Hütte. So this is typically the kind of paths that we're on here. This is a so-called black path, so it's actually quite steep. The American sort of skiing, this would be a double diamond, or not actually a diamond, black diamond, but not a double diamond. So here you can see actually over there the ladder. If I can zoom in on this guy. There's a guy climbing down the ladder there. Yeah, there he is. That's actually just part of the path. So that's the kind of terrain that we got here. So here's a kind of a steep spot where it could be possible to take a drop, but the landing is very easy, so we don't see any danger there. But these are the kind of spots that we consider to be higher probability or high probability, and we'd like to check those in great depth. So probability for us is close to the main path, because we know that he was wanting to get there. We know that he was pretty stoked, and we know that it was he got the book. So the likelihood is that it was main path and a little bit. So our probabilities are, the way we calculate probabilities are close to the main path with a possible mechanism of falling and with bad consequences of falling and with difficult to see. So those are the ways that we evaluate what's likely and what's not so likely in terms of where we're searching. So although this is a steep area, we will not consider this to be a high probability area because the consequences of falling here are non-traumatic. So here we are at the ladder that we saw before. So the ladder for me is good probability to fall, good probability that he was here, but low consequence of taking a tumble and easy to find. So for me this is not a hot spot. So this is the area immediately after the ladder. Up there is the Achselköpfe. Down there is the easy path. And here we have some places like this where you could slip, but the consequences of the slip are not high. So here we are before the next big climb up to the first peak, and here we have what for me is a moderate probability high consequence area. So I'm going to go and have a look in here. So it's a probability, it's a possibility or a moderate probability that he could have come down here to get the view. It's not far from the road. It is steep, or not far from the main path. It is steep. So I'm going to come down here and see, and people do stop here to have a pee, of course. So this becomes pretty moderate to high probability. Very significant consequence. However, you can see here, and we'll also do this on the way back, I'll just check, but you can see here that if he had slipped down here that he would be bare and lying on the talus underneath there, and would have been easy to find. But because we have moderate probability he came here and high consequence, we will check the bottom of this drop. And so I made a GPS point of view, or not a GPS point of view, a GPS point of interest here on my my map. Let me just show it you. Here's I don't know if you can see it on the map, but here's my point of interest, so that when we go down here I can look straight up from at the cliff and the fall line from here, so we can determine if there's any probability. So here also we have high probability that he was here, moderate to low probability that he fell here. Moderate to high probability of bad consequences. If you walk down here, maybe to have a pee, and fell there, that would be high consequence. It goes down to the same bowl at the bottom as the one we just last checked. So this will also be a fall line that we'll check from below. But if he fell from this point, he would stop against that tree. And we already checked in this ledge, but we will check this area once more from below. And it's very important to understand the difference between the searches that we are doing now and the ones that the Mountain Rescue have already carried out, because the Mountain Rescue has statistical data. They have, I don't know, 400 years of people falling off this mountain. And people who fall off this mountain basically always land probabilistically in the same places. There are hotspots. That's where they search. And what they do is in the 0 to 72 hours after they have been made aware, they do this called sort of massive search, massive active search, and they go into all the known hotspots and go detail in there, so that they can be having the maximum chance of finding people in the golden time period. The kind of search that we are carrying out is something completely different. We are doing probabilistic lead generation. That means that the probabilities of, was he here? Could he fall? Would it be bad if he fell? And would he be able to be detected by the searches that the Mountain Rescue have already done? So we're actually already looking in lower probability areas than the Mountain Rescue has already done. So they've got the stats behind them, but we've got the numbers of people, and we've got the time, and the many, many, many eyes, and that's why we're doing this search in this way inside the framework that the Mountain Rescue have given us. So it's just important to understand that, especially for our volunteers who are wondering why they are doing the Mountain Rescue's job. Well, they're not. They're doing their job, and that's a different job, an extremely important job in order to help things further. So here we are coming towards the top of the first of the ridges. As you can see, although the ground is quite steep here, the consequences are not quite so heavy because we have a layer of these cedar bushes up right close that would stop us from rolling downhill. And so we consider this to be high likelihood he was here, moderate to low likelihood that he fell. On this side, the consequences are extreme if you were to fall. So we have now 3 extreme consequence places here, which means that we'll just check the talus at the bottom very carefully, which we anyway need to do. And then on this north side, we need to just continue and look. And this is also, of course, where the Mountain Rescue have already looked in some detail, but just to check all the full lines that are here. And continue. Yep, typical danger spot. You actually see a few footsteps going down here. Maybe it was an animal, maybe it was somebody going down to have a pee. There are a couple of broken branches down there. So this is definitely one. He definitely would have been on the path here. Small to moderate probability, low to moderate probability that he would have stepped off the path here, if so only to have a pee. If he, then a moderate probability that he would have fallen if he got down there, because it's very treacherous, and then a high probability of injury. So we will check the bottom of here as well. Here you see some broken off branches. These are the kinds of clues that we're looking for. Broken off branches, grass that's bent down. You see here another relatively freshly broken off branch in there. So that tells us that this is somewhere where we just need to have a look. The likelihood is it's just sheep and goats down here, but this is how we structurally make sure we have everything covered. Okay, a few yards further on here, some track of people going down. Maybe again you would go down here to just tuck in out of the way if you needed to have a bit of privacy, but that's a safe area where falling is not of consequence. That down there is Probst, so called. And we continue. Okay, here, a known hotspot. This is why also the mountain rescue is always checking here. There's a little path that goes down here and that sometimes people will go down. So this is one of the places where and it comes straight up from this Probst Dam down here. So this is quite often frequented, and it's also sort of a known hotspot for the mountain rescue because there's here and there steep, but as you can see the path here goes through actually relatively open terrain where it's easy to see someone. Certainly easy to find someone with the heat camera, and dogs would definitely have a good chance up here. We have a good upwind here, again you can see it on the grass, and we are being aware of everything that could give us any clues. I don't see any. Yeah, the fall line here is, if you were to take a tumble down here, you'd land on one of these open ledges here and be very readily visible. So to me this is not high probability. So this is a pretty vertiginous area here. Again, we see all of the fall line down here is very visible. And that is the same stuff we just talked about. This is about 10 meters further along. So this is high probability that was here. Moderate to high probability of falling, but low probability of consequence, and definitely be able to find him if you were to fall here. So that's a low probability for me, although we're going to check it. And let's into a bit gentler ground again on the north side here. This is basically the peak, the north side of the rocky peak that we were just looking at. Over there is the pass to Titzinger, and the path up towards the Beinevant area. So we're going to continue along here a little ways and have a look around. And over here you see someone coming down the path. Again, there's a big fall line there, but that's that whole area where the talus, so where there's not a lot of shrubs down on the south side, and we investigate all of the full area in there. So that's an area of high consequence, but also in areas of a high focus for the mountain guides, and they repelled, where are we here? They repelled down all these cliffs already as well to make sure that he didn't stay on any ledges. So they were able to see it. We also flew by here in the helicopter at great length, and we also did some drone searches up here already. But it remains a probability, and we therefore also have in our high priority search area here on the north all of the places where things would fall that were to fall from anywhere on this ridge, in the same way on the south side. Okay, so we are now up on the saddle. So Achselköpfe is up there, and the fall lines that we want to investigate are over there. So we're just going to see about getting through this little tree line here, and then this car should open up for us on the right. Robbie's just scanning with binoculars all these places.
Just taking a look if the wind maybe dragged something further down.
It's always
Something
possible.
out of the rucksack or so.
Yeah. You can see though here on the talus, like where the rock hits the grass, it's very open. It's pretty easy to find things there. There, for instance, a person falling down there would hit the grass there. They might roll down about halfway down that, but they wouldn't roll all the way down that. The limbs and everybody, you know, if you fall down here, it just doesn't. You just don't tumble that far once you hit some steep ground. So now we're walking into the area underneath these places that I saw earlier today, and we're going to check out what's underneath the fall line here. So all those places, I think I pointed out maybe 3 or 4 of them, they all are along this part of the ridge. So we're going to go and have a look underneath here. Although we've had people here looking already, we're going to go under and have a look and see what can be done and what can be learned. So when you look in the film later on, you'll see my GPS marker. We're sitting directly under the fall line of the main risk drop that I saw. This is the drop that I saw with the where the little broken twigs and stuff were. So this is the main one that we want to investigate. Secondarily, that one and that one. And then here is going to be a good place to maybe do a drone search on these ledges. But I know that they've already done a drone search here because, of course, it's a high risk area, high probability of falling. But looking at the terrain here, on the talus we wouldn't see him, but maybe in here it's a possibility that you wouldn't see him. So that might be worth another drone investigation up here. I think so. I think it's worth a drone investigation of the ledges. Yeah, I think so. I think that would be a good investment. We can drive up to Binocular, which is just on the way back here, which we can get up definitely in the truck.
That's what I thought in the first place, that Marinus.
Marinus, he can't get up there with his bully. I can get up there with the Jeep, so we have to take the small drone. Yeah. So basically now I'll make a binocular study. I use a brimmed hat to keep the sun off so that I can study without eye strain. It's a very specific method. And going to do a binocular study of this area. So the main fall line, this danger spot that I saw where the broken branches were, was immediately there. You can see on the GPS we're now directly below it. So I'm looking for signs of disturbed rock and scree that would indicate somebody tumbling down here. But I also will do a complete binocular study of this whole area, and especially then underneath here. And then Martina, as you can see down there, she's going to have a look into the top range of these bushy areas here to see what we can see there as well and what can be learned from that terrain. So a binocular study for recent rock scars, extra scree that's down there. If someone falls down this this type of slope, it dislodges a lot of loose rock. As you can see, that's why the loose rock is all lying around down here. And so if you have a fall, you will tend to see fresh scarring on the scree here. And also higher up on the hill in the slope, there will tend to be scarring, and also in the vegetation. So it's a bit harder to see that by the naked eye, so this is why it's important to do a binocular study of that. So one of the things that we would look for here is freshly fallen rock. So there's a freshly fallen rock just there, and there's a scar up the hill a little bit from there where it's hit. So these are the kinds of things that we're interested in looking at, is fresh rock scars, things that have recently fallen down. So this slot up here is where I saw the broken off branches and the grass that was pointing downwards, so we want to look in the trees in here with the drone. I mean, actually the full line goes like that, but you know, you never know, you might have bounced around, so we want to use the drone for that, the Richard drone. Okay, so here is an example of some recently disturbed rock, which we found with our binocular search, which is sort of in the fall line. So then we look down the fall line and we look to see what is there that could have been related to that, and we find indeed, let me just see where it is now. Yeah, if we look directly below it, let me just see here. Jetzt muss ich neu anfangen. So, das ist der Busch. Okay. So here's an example of the kind of thing that we're looking for. So this is in the face, underneath the fall line, a rock scar, fresh, different color than the rest. So we go directly down the fall line from there, meaning the line that a falling object would take when it on its way down, and we see if there's anything there that makes sense in terms of something that landed here. And indeed we see right along here some fresh rocks, and you can see that they are lighter, and this is where they've basically exploded on impact. So that we know would be the place where that would come from. So here you have the full picture here of the fall line, and that bush was just up there. So that's how we scan to see what's going on. But we think this gully is pretty interesting, and there are some places up here that that we want to investigate with the drone, and we will do that as soon as. So Robbie's gone up to this left saddle here to have another view, and we are basically have completed our binocular search and have done a foot search a little bit along here also, but this is an area that we would like to come back to, especially in here with the drone. So we'll be making way back down pretty soon because the weather is a little bit dicey, and it's about 5 p.m. now, 5:30 even, so it's about time for us to start heading down so that we don't have enough, so we have enough energy in our legs to get safely back to the car. Okay, so we're gonna pack up and head back down now. Yes. And we have a few places up there to investigate. Other than that, we can consider it clear here.